Okay, so hi everybody. Look, I'm lucky enough to have Victor Odoko with me from CFE Services. Victor, thanks for joining me.
No worries, my pleasure.
Yeah, awesome. So, Victor, you've been in the financial planning industry for a while as a financial planner, and I wanted to sort of ask you, if it's okay, what sort of considerations do you have when you're looking to have direct property as part of a client's portfolio?
Yeah, yeah. So I think one of the things that we look at straight away is the life stage of the client. So if we're speaking to a client that is in the early life stage of the journey, and life stage will be okay, still trying to build wealth, you're not close to retirement. It's definitely a good idea to consider what property can do for you because the property has these huge advantages that other investment classes cannot actually provide. So I'll say the key thing is life stage.
Yeah, yeah. I guess once you're in your sort of early stages of your life, once you're younger, you're not really so much as concerned as the income associated. You're looking to more capital growth. You're looking to accumulate wealth, and that is life stage. They're more or less known as accumulators. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. And I think one of the key thing with that life stage as well, once you're in your, the early life stage of your career and you're trying to build wealth, you don't want to be getting too much income where you
Mhm.
didn't pay taxes. You rather have lots of the unrealized capital gains that can actually supercharge that wealth creation for you. And I think at that point in time as well, you can take a little bit more risk. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a good time to look at what property and lending against that property can do for you.
Yeah, okay. So look, as the sort of strategy would go, you're not necessarily looking so much for positive cash flow or high rental property, high rental income property. You're looking for the sort of tax effective capital growth. You may potentially consider negative gearing and property with tax depreciation schedules in place as well. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. So I think just to give you a quick example as well, let's assume you buy a $500,000 property and you positively geared, you feel good, and it's just
Mhm.
a feeling, right? But you need to pay taxes on that positive
Yeah.
gearing. While as you buy that same $500,000 property, you're negatively geared, it's helping to reduce taxes, and you have $100,000 capital gain on that. You don't pay
Mhm.
any taxes on the capital gain. So it's definitely quite important to look at the long-term wealth creation versus the feeling good effect of money coming
Yeah.
in on a regular
Yeah.
basis.
Yeah, because really you only pay capital gains tax on a capital gains event, and that would constitute like selling the property. So as long as you sort of hold the property for the long term, you don't pay capital gains until you sell, essentially.
Yes, yes, correct. And that's where I always put the disclaimer, speak to your accountant. But yeah,
Yeah,
generally that's what we do.
yeah, very good. Yeah. So look, some people as they start to sort of progress into the later years of life, they start to prepare for retirement and they may consider purchasing direct property as part of your portfolio. What are some of the other considerations as we start to get a little bit older and we start to approach retirement? What are some of the other considerations that we need to take into account?
Yeah, perfect. I actually like that question because I tell lots of my clients that are in that stage is we just want the ability to pay off the loan if we
Hmm.
decide to retire early. So I'll say the key thing is the ability. And when I say
Hmm.
ability, I mean you might have a certain type of investment elsewhere that you can liquidate and pay off the loan if you decide to retire. Because once you retire, we don't want you thinking about, oh, interest rate changes, paying off the debt, how do you service this? We just want you to enjoy that retirement. So the ability to pay off is very, very important.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, exactly. So when you start to get into retirement, you want that security of income, and you might be thinking, I want fixed payments without any sort of volatility. And I guess the volatility comes in the form of interest rates moving at market rate.
Yeah, so and I think one of the thing as well, you don't want to retire, then you have this debt you have to pay off, but there's no ability to actually pay that off because then that's another worry. I think by the time you get to those later stages in life, it's more about the security, as you said, very
Mhm.
important, and stability as well. So just knowing that, look, you can take care of yourself for the rest of your life, and you just need to worry about where should your next trip be? Should
Yeah,
you buy more or less for the grandkids, things like that. So.
yeah, yeah, exactly. You don't want the burden of wondering whether you're gonna, be able to make interest payments or, loan repayments. You want to worry about where your next holiday is. That's a good burden to have.
Yeah.
Now, look, self-managed super funds are fairly popular. What should people know about, starting a self-managed super fund and purchasing property potentially through a self-managed super fund before they take those steps?
Okay, perfect. I always say the key thing about the self-managed super fund is just ensure you have enough liquidity in
Hmm.
SMSF, because yes, you want to buy a property. I'll just use a balance of $500,000 in there, and you're using $300,000 for the property deposit. $200,000 left in the fund is actually good liquidity that you
Hmm.
can have, because with that $200,000, you can still invest in something else. So a key and very important thing is liquidity, especially when you know you're going to be borrowing to buy a property within an SMSF.
Hmm. And what would that liquidity be able to do? I mean, meet sort of emergency costs or unforeseen costs. Is there anything that liquidity will provide within a self-managed super fund?
Yes. One of the things is just meeting ongoing costs of actually running the SMSF.
Hmm.
Yes, you might have some contributions coming in from your employer, which is good. Hopefully you're still working. But yeah, employ contributions coming in. But I think one of the key things as well is if you need to make improvements to the property you own, you actually will find it very difficult to get another loan on it. So you actually need to use some of this liquidity you have in the SMSF to make sure you can make renovations to the house or improvements to the house if
Yeah.
they need be. And in terms of that as well, there can be other costs that can, come up in terms of just holding the right types of personal insurances in place.
Hmm.
And I guess paying the professionals that actually help you with that. And I guess the key thing about the liquidity as well is as long as it's in a very liquid asset, it's fine. So the money
Hmm.
shouldn't just be sitting down in cash,
Yeah.
generally, because anyone setting up an SMSF, you should have, 15, 20 years to retirement. If not, it might be a little bit riskier than
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
it is. But having the liquidity can be in a share portfolio. Those are very liquid. You can sell part of the share portfolio to use the funds for something else. While as if you look at a house, you can't really sell a bathroom. Say, okay, well, I'll buy that bathroom as soon as I get the funds back. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean by liquidity. It doesn't mean it shouldn't be invested.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like you said, there's probably other things that people can consider. That's a lot more liquid. Like you can get the money if you're ever in a sort of pinch, you can get the money fairly quickly within a few days. To turn over a house, to liquefy a house or turn it into cash, for lack of a better word, it would take weeks, if not months, to do something like that.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, yeah, very good. And then also later down the track, you have to sort of meet pension payment costs. So eventually, when you go from an accumulator to pension phase, you then need to sort of worry about, well, do I have enough to pay myself a pension as a sort of mandate? You need to meet those minimum pension payments.
Yes, correct. So, for those in the latter stages of your life and you started drawing some pension on there, you need to meet the minimums. And for
Hmm.
example, if you don't have enough liquidity to meet the minimums, then you're in trouble. So,
Yeah.
and cash flow and cash itself is king. So you need to really consider where you can get cash from, how you can maintain several certain limits in the fund to cater for different things. And as you mentioned, one of the important ones there is meeting pension payments.
Hmm. Yeah. I like that saying, cash flow is king. That's a good one. Now, what about some of the types of people that should consider a self-managed super fund? Because I know, there's a general rule of thumb of who self-managed super funds are appropriate for. So, from what I hear people say, again, a self-managed super fund really isn't suited for anybody that doesn't have like a combined balance of around 250. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the balance is a very hot and debated topic these days. So
Mm.
I may avoid that debate myself, but in
Yeah.
terms of who should generally be looking at an SMSF, because someone like a
Hmm.
business owner, you need the premises to work from. That's someone that you can really, really benefit from an SMSF, because
Hmm.
you can buy a commercial property within your SMSF and then actually use that for yourself. So if you
Hmm.
think about it, you get to keep the arbitrage or benefit of you owning the place, renting it to yourself, but at the same time growing your retirement fund. So I think business owners who have the ability to buy a place or who actually use and rent a place, it's a very, very important consideration. That's one group of people that would benefit from an SMSF. I think the other group of people is just people who actually want a little bit more tailoring in their superannuation account. So they might want to invest in direct property, or they might want to invest in direct investments that their super platforms cannot provide. So that's another group of people that I'll say you should strongly consider an SMSF.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, so I've heard a lot of business owners, they do that as a means of making tax-effective contributions to their super and also owning their commercial property inside a self-managed super fund. So that's definitely a consideration. How would you as a financial planner work with them to tailor that sort of portfolio?
Yeah, so one of the key things which we do as well is just helping them come up with, okay, what do you need as what do you need to maintain in terms of liquidity in the account? How can you invest the rest of the funds? How should you actually be structuring this SMSF? In terms of structuring as well, we can talk about days. We can talk for days as to what that structuring should look like. But in terms of, okay, how do you then build that over time? Should it be a complete ownership in SMSF? Should it be a part ownership in SMSF, maybe linked to a trust because of borrowing capacities? All those kind of issues we then discuss, and then we help them put that in place. That's within the SMSF. There's also the in protection that comes with you having an SMSF. You need some level of protection depending on your life stage as well.
Yeah, okay. Very
and
good.
then we also have the superannuation account, super strategies we can put in place. Should we be contributing more now, later on? And how should we kind of help you build that wealth, and what risk level should you be taking?
Yeah, exactly. And the types of contributions as well, and whether they're concessional or non-concessional or pre or post-tax, and exactly. Yeah. And the impact on your cash flow and your tax position. Yeah, there's a lot of considerations. I definitely don't think that anybody should try something as complex as putting an SMSF together themselves, because there's just so many different considerations and facets and all like customization. Like there's the actual super strategy, contribution strategy. There's the SMSF maintenance itself. There's the SMSF strategy. And then even then the entity of the self-managed super fund itself is just so complex, especially when we started to talk about sort of business real property as well, and having that, like I know that there's so many restrictions and limitations associated with that inside a self-managed super fund.
Yeah. And I think, even small things like most people might not be thinking about transfer balance caps when they're setting up SMSF, but as an accumulator, if you're setting up an SMSF and you may need to make contributions in there, what's your transfer balance cap? Quite important. Most people think it's just for people that are retired, okay? Because they're moving into a pension phase, but that affects a lot, like in terms of carry forward contributions and non-concessional contributions as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things with the SMSFs as well is you can run into trouble with the ATO if you do something that you're not meant to do. So we kind of keep the clients in a position where they understand risks, and then they're avoiding what they might not have thought about. Yeah.
No, I don't want to get into trouble with the ATO. I fear the tax man more than anybody else in this world. So very good. Oh, well, look, I think I've taken a lot away from this conversation. For me, some of my takeaways is, people that want to diversify their portfolio away from sort of paper assets could potentially consider direct property in their portfolio. But again, there's a number of considerations. A self-managed super fund might be good for people that want to have more of a tailored portfolio and may even consider direct property in their self-managed super fund. And then business owners could consider having their own commercial property inside a self-managed super fund as well. But there's a lot of strategies as well. So that's probably sort of my biggest takeaways from this conversation as well. I do want to provide the caveat before we go that anything that we talked about in this conversation is only general discussion, satirical, not direct. And if anybody has any financial advice questions, they should really speak to Victor as well, or if they have a financial planner, speak to their financial planner about how some of these strategies could pertain to their personal financial situation. So I'm going to put that disclosure in there as well before people start opening self-managed super funds and start mucking around with that sort of stuff.
Correct. And I think one of the key things as well, I think people underestimate the benefit of using a buyer's agent. Like, you know, I've used one. I definitely encourage my clients to use one. You know, there's a distinction between a financial planner, an accountant, you know, buyer's agent, a mortgage broker. And I think people really need to understand that clear distinction, because, you know, not all property makes money. So you really want to ensure you're buying the right properties and considering a lot of things that you may not consider by yourself. And, you know, it's cliche, right? But we professionals, we do this every day. So we have lots of expertise around that, which is very beneficial to the clients, especially the intangible benefits. Yeah,
I definitely agree with you. I have to say, like, whether it's a financial planner, mortgage broker, or a buyer's agent, like you said, we're professionals. We do this for a living. And when I talk about being a buyer's agent and purchasing property, I sort of say, like, the average person has really in their whole lifetime, they may purchase, say, 3 properties. They'll purchase the first home, a family home, and a downsizer, and maybe 1 investment property or something like that. So in their whole lifetime, they've only purchased 4 properties. But a buyer's agent normally will buy 2, 3 a month sort of thing. So they've got a much broader breadth in terms of experience when purchasing property. Same with a financial planner. You sort of think, well, I understand my financial situation, but a financial planner sees, you know, 1 or 2 clients a week on average. So they've got a much broader breadth in terms of your personal financial situation, certain financial scenarios, as well as like legislation and policies and that sort of stuff as well, that might impact them down the track. So, you know, when it comes to finances, people are very taboo. They don't want to share that information with a lot of people, but it's actually worth your while to go to a financial professional and seek assistance and make that investment into your personal finances as well.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Very good. Well, look, Victor, that's all the questions that I had for you today. Thank you very much for taking the time out to chat. If anybody wants to ask you any further questions or get in touch, maybe for an initial consult rather, how would be the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'll say best way would be to reach out by email. And so my email address is victor@cfvservices.com.au. And we do have Instagram, where we actually post quite a bit and just give some free tips. So our Instagram is CFV Services. So I'll say those are the key ways to reach me.
Awesome. If anybody wants to discuss the topics that we discussed in today's podcast, please reach out to Victor on his email or his Instagram. I'll make sure to put those in the post as well. But look, Victor, thanks again very much for your time, and thanks for taking the time out to chat.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Johnny.
Thank you.